Welcome once again to this the Latino Book and Family Festival. And thanks to our partners for all their support, especially AARP California, whose mission is to empower people to choose how they live as they age. In this session, we present an interview with a national educational leader, Dr. Antonio Flores. He has served as president and CEO of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, known as HACU, for 25 years. He has been a leading advocate for Hispanic serving institutions, HSIs, and Hispanic higher education success. Under his leadership, HSIs have garnered over $5 billion in educational funding and current appropriations about $500 million annually. HACU's membership represents more than 500 colleges and universities that collectively serve two-thirds of the 3.8 million Hispanic students in U.S. higher education across 38 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. HACU also affiliates 30 leading universities in Latin America and Spain. He has served numerous recognitions and honors for his contributions to higher education, including 5 honorary doctorate degrees from higher education institutions. He serves and has chaired various national boards and commissions. He earned a PhD in higher education administration from the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, a master's in counseling and personnel from Western Michigan University, and bachelor's degrees in business administration and elementary education from Universidad de Guadalajara and Centro Normal Regional, Mexico, respectively. Interviewing Dr. Flores, we have Kirk Whisler. He is the president of Western Publication Research, whose programs include Latino 24/7 Media Group and WPR Books, a publishing company. In 1982, he was honored to serve as the founding president of the National Association for Hispanic Publications. In the 1990s, he co-founded, along with Edward James Olmos, the nonprofit Empowering Latino Futures and the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival. Kirk has served on multiple national organizational boards. He has been publisher of several magazines, developed the marketing campaigns for several dozen movies, and authored 40-plus books or studies. In 2019, the AARP honored Kirk's nonprofit work with the AARP Purpose Prize Fellow Award. Welcome to this interview session.
Very honored to be here today with Dr. Antonio Flores, who's the CEO of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. And for those of you that maybe haven't heard of HACU, it impacts millions of people out there. Antonio, can you share an overview of HACU's programs and missions?
Thank you, Kirk. Obviously, HACU has been around now for 35 years and is one of the best kept secrets in the nation. The mission of HACU is to champion Hispanic success in higher education, and we do it in 3 different ways. Number 1, advocacy. We advocate continually before the U.S. Congress and the federal administration, as well as with some key states throughout the country where we have a lot of member institutions such as California, Texas, and others. The second major thing that we do is programs that work, exemplary programs to help our institutions improve their success rate with our young students and adults. And they go from scholarships to internships to leadership development to career advancement programs that we provide for college students and secondary school students as well. But also for leadership development of Latinos in administration or academic appointments in higher education to move up the ladder and become presidents and CEOs of college universities. So we have a host of programs aimed at increasing the success rate of Latinos in higher ed. And the third thing is basically creating partnerships with federal agencies, with corporations, with foundations, with other nonprofit organizations to support what we do advocacy-wise and programs-wise. So those are the 3 legs of the HACU stool.
Excellent, Antonio. I appreciate those insights. How have things improved for Latinos in the US under the Biden administration?
Obviously, President Biden's inauguration created a sense of hope and expectation for Latinos across the country, because obviously during his campaign and in the last several months, he has been advocating for more investments in education and health and infrastructure that we think are essential for the country and for Latinos specifically. And so we think that we are in much better shape today than we were before January 20th. And of course, the best is yet to come.
What other issues has his administration yet to address?
Well, from where we see things, we continue to be the only underrepresented population in the federal workforce. So in the federal government, Latinos only represent about 8% of all the federal employees, but we are almost 20% of the population. So there is a big gap there. And it gets worse when you look at management and executive level positions in government. There, the rate of participation by Latinos is as low as in some agencies, 2% or 4%. So there is a lot of work to be done by the Biden administration to close those big gaps. Secondly, obviously, immigration reform is a big issue for our community, and we're hopeful that President Biden will work very closely with Congress to make immigration reform happen, particularly in beginning with the Dreamers, who have been on hold for so long. And so that's another major issue affecting our community. And of course, with respect to education, the investments in our Hispanic serving institutions remain exceedingly low. Mm-hmm. And we need President Biden's leadership to work with Congress for HSIs to get their fair share of federal resources so that they can do a better job in educating Latinos across the country. And so that's a big issue right there. Underfunding of HSIs we need to really address. And of course, related to HSIs, they are the only cohort of minority serving institutions that don't have a presidential advisory board that will advise President Biden and the Secretary of Education on how to best strengthen Hispanic serving institutions. We need that board right now. So those are among some of the issues that President Biden and his administration hopefully will really tackle in the next several years and the months ahead.
I know that the White House Office on Hispanic education was largely dismantled under the Trump administration. What are you hearing from that entity?
Well, what happened is during the Trump administration, there was a shift from Obama in the direction of investments in more of the private for-profit education enterprises, including K-12 charter schools, including for-profit technical schools. And that created a problem because there was a shifting of federal resources from public education to private investors. And that is totally absurd in a country like ours. And that impacted on many of our HSIs and our Hispanic students. Of course, Biden is going back to the approach that Obama had in place and is pushing for more investments in minority serving institutions, but again, not in an equitable manner. Unfortunately, the proposed budget for 22, fiscal year 22, for example, only has less than half the amount of money, federal money for HSIs than it does for other minority serving institutions, particularly HBCUs. And this is just unacceptable because we have more than 500 HSIs that serve more than 5 million students nationwide and that serve more than 2/3 of all the 3.8 million Hispanics in college today, but also more students, more African American students than all of the HBCUs combined, more Native Americans than all tribal colleges and universities put together, and more Asian Americans than any other group of institutions. So this is a very diverse cohort, HSIs, of college universities that truly represents America's diversity, but is not being treated equitably when it comes to federal funding. So we want to change that and change it rapidly.
That's a great insight, Antonio. What can we expect from HACU in the next 2 to 5 years?
Well, HACU is obviously one of the newest college and university associations in the country, 35 years old or young, depending on how we want to approach it. And in this short life that HACU has been advocating for HSIs and Hispanic higher education success, we have learned a great deal about what to set as priorities for the next 2 to 5 years. Number one, we know that Latinos are becoming really the most significant group of new workers entering the labor force of this country. And in the last census report of 2020, 51% of all the growth of the US population was Hispanic. So the future labor force of the country needs a better prepared labor force that Latinos represent, and STEM fields are particularly representing Latinos. All those degree programs in math and science, technology, engineering are very, very low in terms of Latino enrollment and graduation. So we want to change that. STEM is going to be a major priority for HACU going forward. And we already have hired a national inaugural director for STEM initiatives that is coming on board in October to lead the way, to create more infrastructure within HACU, and to carry out national programs.
Excellent.
And but we also have, of course, as a priority, that's kind of an ongoing one, but it's going to be even more salient in the years ahead, is to better educate our members of Congress and the public at large on the importance of HSIs for the good of the country, how significant they are to the entire nation, not just to Latinos. And that's a priority that we take very seriously, because it's part of our advocacy agenda to improve our marketing and information resources with members of Congress, policymakers in general. And we also want to make sure there is greater collaboration between our HSIs, higher education institutions, and K-12 schools to create a more successful and robust pipeline for young Latinos coming from K-12 and moving up to college more seamlessly and more successfully as they do that by college universities collaborating much more with K-12 programmatically, so that the success rate in higher education is increased as well. And of course, we continue to be at the forefront of pushing for immigration reform. We hope that it's not going to take 2 or 5 years, or that in the next 2 to 5 months, we see results, particularly with respect to the dreamers that are young people who do not follow their own, have no other country and no other language in many cases. And so that we see that as our priorities right now, Kirk.
Excellent insights. How can people become more involved with HACU?
Well, obviously, everyone, not just Latinos, but everyone with an understanding and a conscience of how important education is for the common good of everyone in our country has to recognize that supporting Hispanic serving institutions is of paramount importance. And they can do that by, number one, talking to their members of Congress locally about those Hispanic serving institutions and their congressional districts and how important they are to the workforce development of communities and to the improvement of neighborhoods, and that they support in a more forceful way funding for those institutions. The other way is that they also can visit our website, avail themselves of the information on programs that we have, and spread the word, invite others to also learn about HACU's programs, and those who are eligible for programs apply to them, because that's what we're all about providing opportunities for success in education, particularly in higher education. And obviously, we always benefit from not only your talent and your support advocacy-wise, but also from your treasure. HACU is a nonprofit that depends on donations from people across the board. In our website, we have a part of it that allows you to make a donation to HACU. We'll put it to very good use in terms of scholarships, internships, and other programs that help young people. Those are some of the ways in which they can help us. But obviously, another way is simply advising us, giving us their own insights as to what they know about what we do that we could do better, and letting us know that. We'll appreciate that as well.
Antonio, what's your website?
Our website is www.hacu.net.
Excellent. Okay. What are your thoughts about the term BiPOC? And are you aware that CBS National News stated about BiPOC? People are using the term to acknowledge that not all people of color face equal levels of injustice. They say BiPOC is significant in recognizing that Black and Indigenous peoples are severely impacted by systemic racial injustices. What do you think about the term now? And would you consider joining a national coalition of Latino, Asian American, Black, and Native American organizations to come up with a truly encompassing term?
Well, obviously, our country is going through an inflection point, I think, of sorts with respect to race relations that I think is being fueled by politics of extremism, and I think it's unfortunate that that is the case, but it's what we got. And part of that is obviously the very history of our country of racial injustice and discrimination against some groups by others, and all of that obviously has to be part and parcel of how we go forward in terms of understanding that, okay, those things happen and they affected the status of populations that have been oppressed historically, and not necessarily about placing guilt or fault on anyone, but about looking forward together to a better future for everyone, white, Black, Asian, Latino, everyone. We need to come together as a nation to find better ways of resolving our differences too, when it comes to different opinions on race relations and how to even articulate that in history books and in education. We cannot go on by fighting in the streets physically or by attacking each other on social media and just totally polarizing even more so the country. That is dysfunctional, and we should avoid it at all by all means and come together. All of those groups that you mentioned, but also the non-Hispanic white population needs to join us from all all ethnic backgrounds or national origins, and create a national conversation about how to improve those race relations and social interactions among people of different backgrounds, different cultural perspectives, because it's what America is all about. It's about diversity, and we should pursue it in that spirit of mutual understanding and of dialogue, not of confrontation.
Yeah, I've never cared for the term minority, and it's certainly outdated today, but there was a time where certain people would use it sort of like inferior in that. And I'm afraid that, but then when I look at a collective term, what the gay and lesbian community has done has worked wonders in terms of uniting all the different sects into a single entity, and collectively they've been so much more powerful because of that. And within the entertainment industry, it's amazing what GLAAD and other organizations have done. We need that collective thing within the diverse community, in my mind. But it takes everybody coming up with something rather than somebody prioritizing, oh, we've suffered more than somebody else, and which isn't exactly accurate to begin with.
Yeah, no, because everything is contextual, and yes, some at some points in time have had it worse than others, but the point is not to dwell on those things, in my view, but how to overcome the possibility of repeating some of the same mistakes and really coming together as a nation behind those principles of democracy that we all embrace, but not everyone practices. And that's what I think the bottom line is that we are obviously very, very distant from what we would like to be as politicians would say, a more perfect union. And basically, we are not a very perfect union. And that's why it requires that we all pull together. And I know that there is a lot of polarization along the lines of voting rights, for example, right now. And it's such a critical part of our life, our democracy, voting rights, that it really doesn't matter whether you are Republican or Democrat or any other persuasion. The right to vote and the ability to do it without any obstacles and without any pushback from anyone is essential to any democratic nation. And to create those obstacles only pushes back in the direction and the wrong direction, and creates more animosity across not only states, but within states and across the nation. And so there are a lot of issues at play right now. And I think creating the conditions for a national conversation of sorts takes a lot of courage and a lot of determination on the part of leaders from all sectors of society, the corporate sector, government, elected officials, nonprofit sector, etc. And I frankly hope that some of them, the ones with the most resources, will create the framework for that conversation to happen. And here we're talking about the major foundations and the major corporations. They do have the resources to
Yeah.
make something like this happen. The question is whether they are going to have the vision and the commitment to invest in such conversation.
Excellent insights there. Anything else that you want to offer?
Not only a very sincere thank you for allowing us to be part of your program, Kirk, and wanted to commend you for doing this program, because obviously reading is fundamental. Literacy is essential to a democratic life and to educational opportunity. And so the fact that you promote that to this program is just incredibly valuable. And thank you for doing it.
I appreciate all the time that you've devoted to it, but most of all, I appreciate your insights.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of your program, Kirk, and thank you again for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
Same to you.
Thank you for staying during this session. We want to highlight our partner, ARP California, for sponsoring this session. You can find more information at arp.org/ca. And thank you to everyone who supports this programming. You can find us at lbff.us or on our Facebook page at Latino Book and Family Festivals.